Hello my students, this is Atif Ahmed, your physics teacher. Today we are going to discuss about deformation of solid. In this video lecture, you will learn the concept of deformation. I will explain it with the help of example and then types of deformation. There are two main types, temporary deformation and permanent deformation. I will further explain these types with the help of example, and then in the last we have the two main categories of solid material. The first one is brittle and the second one is the ductile. I will explain which type of deformation is present in the brittle and in ductile material. Okay, let's start with the concept of deformation. It is very easy and simple. What is deformation? When we apply a force on a solid and there is change in shape or length or volume of this solid. This is called deformation in solid. So you are applying the force on the solid and there is change in shape. So this is simply known as deformation. For example, we have a ball, rubber ball, in spherical shape. Take it in your hand and press it. You are applying the force on this ball. The shape of the ball will change, as you can see. First it was spherical. Now you can see its shape is changed. So you are applying the force and there is change in shape. This is deformation in this solid. Clear? We have the two main types of deformation. Number one, temporary deformation, and number two, permanent deformation. Let's discuss. Permanent deformation. What is permanent deformation? You are applying the force on the solid and there is change in shape or length or volume. But when you remove this force, applied force, but changes are still present in the body will not regain its original shape. Changes are permanent. This kind of deformation is known as permanent deformation because changes produced in the body are permanent changes. That's why it is known as permanent deformation. For example, we have a rod. Bend it beyond a certain limit. Okay, then remove the applied force. You will observe that this bended rod will not go to its original position or original shape. Okay, so it will remain bended. This kind of deformation is called permanent deformation because after removing the applied force, the body is not able to regain its original shape. So this is called permanent deformation. Clear? Okay, my dear students, we have the two categories of solids. As I have told you, brittle and ductile. You must know about brittle and ductile. Brittle are kind of material. When you apply force on these kind of material, it will break into the pieces. Okay. On the other hand, ductile are the type of material on which you apply the force. You can easily bend them. Okay, you can easily change the shape, right? Okay, so in brittle like material like a glass and ceramics, there is no plastic deformation because when you apply the force, it will break into the pieces. So we cannot observe plastic deformation or permanent deformation in the brittle material. Remember that plastic deformation is also known as permanent deformation. Okay, it is a second name you can say. Right. On the other hand, in ductile material, when you apply the force, you can easily change the shape of this object. So you can produce the permanent changes in the body. That's why ductile material show or exhibit the phenomena of plastic deformation or permanent deformation. So remember that brittle material like glass or ceramics cannot exhibit the phenomena of plastic deformation or permanent deformation. On the other hand, the ductile material can show the phenomena of plastic deformation because by applying the force, you can change the shape permanently. Permanent changes can be produced in this kind of material. So that is the reason. Okay. But when you apply the force, what happened in the body? Why it changed its shape permanently? Like this, we have the arrangement of the particles in the solid, or you can say molecule in the solid. you are applying the force. When you apply enough force, so the layers of this particle will be slipped. As you can see, this layer is slipping from its original position and it will not go back to the previous position, it will remain in this position. These kind of changes will produce in permanent deformation. Okay, let's start the temporary deformation. What is temporary deformation? And it is clear from its name, it is temporary. When you apply a force on the body, there is some changes. It may be in length, in volume, or in shape. But when we remove the applied force, the changes will removed. The body will go back to its original shape. These kind of deformation is called temporary deformation. For example, we have a rubber band. Okay, grip in your hand and stretch it. When you stretch it, you are applying the force. There is change in length. But when we remove this force, the body will regain its original shape. Okay, so these kind of deformation are called temporary deformation. In this type of deformation, when we remove the force, the body will regain its original shape. Okay, so changes are not permanent in this case. Changes are temporary. Right. Okay, again we have the two kind of material in solid, which are brittle and ductile. And remember that there is temporary deformation in brittle material, but in very short limit. For example, we have a greater size glass sheet and we are applying a very little force in the center of the glass sheet. You will observe that that will bend a little bit. But when we remove this little force, again it will be straight. It means that when you have applied the force, there was some deformation. When we remove the force, again it regains its original shape. So there is some temporary deformation, but in a very short limit. So we can say that brittle material can also exhibit the phenomena of temporary deformation, but in a very short limit. On the other hand, ductile material shows permanent as well as temporary deformation. For example, we have a foot scale made of iron, like we have in our hand. Bend it a little bit, not too much, little bit, and release. It will again be straight. When you bend, it will be curved. When you release it, it will be again straight. So when we apply a little force, there will be change in shape, but when we remove the force, again it will regain its original shape. So there is temporary deformation. So we can say that the temporary deformation is observed in the ductile material. Okay, there is one question. Why body regain its original shape? What is the reason behind that? Remember that the particles of the body want to be stable. They get stability when they are in the lowest potential energy stage. So in this position, the particle is at the lowest energy state, potential energy state, minimum potential energy. So when we apply the force, this position is disturbed. The potential energy increases. So when we remove the force, the body will regain its original position by decreasing its potential energy. So again it will come to its original position, but within a certain limits. So this is the lecture of the day. If you have any difficulty, please mention in the comment. I will explain it. Thank you very much.